back to another episode of Look Past Limits. Today is day 14 of the van build.
So today's tasks are electrics, 12 volt electrics and 230 volt mains electrics. And whilst I'm doing that, Vendy will continue with some odd jobs around the van. So if you're new here, we're trying to convert this van into a camper van in 30 days or less. As Vendy said earlier, we're on day 14 of the van build today. Yesterday we got the diesel heating system installed, and today we're going to do the electrics. So we've already ran the cables. You can go back and watch all the previous videos. There's a link up here somewhere just now for the playlist. We already ran the wires for the lights on the roof. There's a light on the underside of the overhead lockers there. There will be one round the bed. There's a few other bits and pieces. The water pump's already in. So anything that we've already put in the van, we've already wired those and ran the cables all back to one point where the battery is going to be. Today we're going to make up, we've got two electrical panels to make up. We've got the one that's going to be hidden under the bed, which is going to hold fuses and charge controller and things like that. And we've got another one on the side of the kitchen, which is going to have sockets and light switches and things. So the first thing we need to do is go and decide where they're going to be, what size they're going to be, and a bit of a layout for that. And then we'll start attaching everything to those boards, and then we'll talk through attaching all of that and connecting all the wires together. And hopefully we'll get it all done today with fuses and everything and get the battery in. We'll see how it goes. So here's a quick look inside the van just now to show you where we're up to at this point and what we've already wired. So as I mentioned, we've got these LED lights on the roof. We've got 6 of them. They're all 12 volt. We've got a 12 volt LED strip, the length of the overhead lockers here. And here we have a water pump and pressure switch somewhere at the back there that you can maybe see, somewhere up there, which is also 12 volt. We've got a 12 volt fridge here, and we've got the diesel heating system, which also needs 12 volt. So all of that, the cables for it are all coming back to here. The one white cable is for the electric hookup point, which is installed on the outside of the van about here, so that when you're on a campsite you can plug into electrics. So that comes down here, and from that we've got 3-core twin and earth 2.5mm flexible strand copper cable. Everything else is in red and black cable for the 12 volt. We've also got sockets back here actually that I haven't mentioned. There's a 65 watt power delivery USB-C, a normal USB 3, and a 12 volt cigarette lighter socket style that we can plug in things if we want to run them out the back here. We've also got the solar panel cables coming down here as well. So yeah, we've ran everything back to here with the plan that underneath the bed, we don't yet have the bed in, obviously, as you can see, but the bed will go round here. It'll be a U-shaped sofa area during the day, and the table will drop down at night to make a double bed or a king size bed lengthways like that. So underneath the bed here there'll be an electrical panel running the full length of here. In this space here will be the battery. We've got a 190 amp 12 volt Varta battery, and then up here will be another panel which will have visible sockets and light switches. So I've already cut the panel to shape here, which I've got outside on the bench there, and we just need to decide where we want the things. So we're thinking light switches, sockets, 240 volt sockets. If I mentioned 230 or 240, we're building this in Europe, so we're on 230 here, but in the UK it's 240, it's the same thing. And we'll also have the panel for the diesel heater controller here as well. Down here we'll have everything else that doesn't need accessed on a day-to-day basis. The cable that we've used for the 12 volt, we've got 1.5mm squared copper strand for the lights and 2.5mm squared for the sockets, the water pump, the fridge, the sockets here, and we've got 6mm squared for the solar. And as you can see, everything that's been ran in any of the walls is all running through this conduit to protect it from chafing inside the van if it touches any of the metal anywhere in here. So this should be everything that we need coming back to here for the moment, plus everything that we'll need to link this to this. So the next step is to cut this board and attach all of the different pieces to it that we've got out here. This is going to be some of the things that go under the main board underneath the bed, and this is going to be some of the things that go on the board which will go here on the side panel. So I'll do that now. I'll attach everything to these boards and then we'll talk about what each thing is, and then we'll take the boards into the van and connect them all up. So we now have two finished panels. This will be the panel that you can actually see inside the van. We've got light switches, we've got a switch for the water pump, USB-C, normal USB, voltmeter, cigarette lighter socket, mains electric, and diesel heater controls. So this will get mounted on the side of the bed. And then the other panel that we've got that you don't normally see is this, and this will get mounted underneath the bed. So starting from the middle, we've got in here will go the main isolator switch to turn the battery on and off. Here we've got the 12 volt fuse panel. Above it we've got the main fuse, which is the first fuse that comes from the battery. On this side we've got the solar charge controller. This will be the box for the fuses for the solar charge controller. Here we've got a mains battery charger that you can use to charge the leisure battery if the solar's not powerful enough and you're plugged in at a campsite, or if you leave the van at home under cover and the solar doesn't get the sun. And this will be the fuses for the mains system for this, and also for the socket that you saw on the side. So we're not actually going to have an inverter on this build, which means that the mains system will only work when you're plugged in either at home. When we're here we can plug it into the garage, or when we're on a campsite we can plug in via the electric hookup point at the side. When we plug in, then the plugs inside the van will operate like normal household plugs, but we can't use those normal household plugs from the leisure battery. We don't feel the need to. We're quite happy to use everything off 12 volts, and this 230 mains system is basically just a backup. If you want to be able to use the 230 mains plugs and the normal household plugs from the leisure battery, then you need an inverter, and we just don't want that anything extra. We want to try and keep the system as simple as possible. From the solar, we'll have the cables coming down to the charge controller. They'll run through the fuses here, and then the charge controller will charge the battery. We expect to be able to run everything that we need from the battery all the time without ever having any problems with the solar. We're using it in Europe, which means that we're going to get lots of sun. We've got 300 watts of solar on the roof and 190 amp hours of battery, which will power the fridge, the heater, the lights, the water pump, you know, these things, and more than enough for charging phones and laptops and things. We also use 12 volt laptop chargers rather than using the household chargers, which we can just plug into the cigarette lighter sockets, which will be one at the front of the van and one at the back of the van. And then all the 12 volt system will be fused through here. As I say, this will be a main fuse which basically protects this fuse box. So from the battery there'll be some heavy wire coming up going through here before it even reaches here. on this fuse box we've got a negative bus bar built in, which means that all of the negatives can all come back to here as well. And so yeah, this you'll only turn on when you're at home or on a campsite if need be, but we don't expect to have to use this very often at all. But it's just there again as a backup so that we don't have the solar as the only charger. We're also not running charging from the van, so we're keeping the leisure battery in the back completely separate from the van battery in the front. A lot of people will also link the two so that you can charge the leisure battery from the van either through the inverter or through a DC to DC charger, but we're not going to do any of that either. We're going to keep the systems completely separate. Again, it keeps it simple. It means that there's any problem with one battery, you don't get the problem with the other and whatnot. So we've got the panel inside the van now. We had already put this here as part of the kitchen frame to support it at this side, and I've just built a little stand at this side. There's not a huge amount of space because the battery is going to go in here later, but I'm just leaving it out just now to give me some space to work. So what I'm going to start doing, I've untangled all the cables that I had coiled up here and started leading them to different places, but what I'm first going to do is the big battery cables. Basically when the battery sits here, we'll have the positive and negative terminal of the battery here, and from there we need quite heavy gauge 16mm squared cable to go from there up through the battery switch and into the fuse box and through this main fuse as well. I'm going to do all of that first just because the crimp tool that I've got that can do everything else, I've got interchangeable heads for this that I can do all the rest of the connections, but I've had to borrow a big set of crimps to do these cables. This is what I'm going to be putting on the end. I've got them in different size rings. This is for the 16mm cable. I've also got some for some 10mm cable that I'll be using for the solar. And I've got these with a hole of 6mm and a hole of 8mm depending on where they're going. So I'm going to start by crimping those first, and then we'll see how we get on. It seems like I'll probably not get all of this done today now, so I thought I would start doing that whilst I've borrowed this tool so that I can give this back and then I can crack on with the rest of it tomorrow. Well, unfortunately I haven't managed to get the electrics finished today. Vendy's shouting on me telling me that dinner's ready, so I better pack up for today and I'll need to continue this tomorrow. I want to keep filming these videos the way that we've been doing it, where we just film what we do each day, so unfortunately we're not going to have the electrics finished in this video, and part 2 will be coming out tomorrow. If you're watching this later, then I'll pop a link up here to the video which will be coming out tomorrow, which will have part 2 of the electrics. I'll show you where we got to. The van, as you can see, is a bit of a mess. There's just a empty space there where I was sitting. This is kind of where we got to. So I've wired all the 16mm cable, which was the stuff that I wanted to get done today with that bigger crimp tool. So we've got from the battery to the 12V fuse box, and from the battery to the solar charge controller. We've got this switched wired. We've got the fuses for the solar and the charge controller wired, and some of the AC charger here as well. So I'll talk through more of this in detail tomorrow. and explain what I'm doing and where things are going and how different things are crimped and whatnot. But yeah, we'll finish up at that for today. I'll leave the van in this state overnight, and we'll see you again tomorrow for part 2, I guess. So thanks very much again for watching, guys. You know the drill. If you enjoyed it, press the like button, it'll really help us. And if you've got any questions about the electrics, just pop a comment down below and we'll try and get back to you. Cheers guys, see you tomorrow.